Everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Ball and Breakfast podcast with Wayne. I'm Patrick. Another rendition here, sticking to the NFL. If you haven't already, go on YouTube, check out our Chicago Bears off-season review. We go over free agency leading into the draft, which will all start a couple weeks from now, March 15th, and then the draft at the end of April. So if you haven't checked that out, go in, take a look, see what you think. Feel free to rip our ideas apart. We're happy with that, but excited for football. And with that, we're parlaying, all of that analysis and some of those insights into today's episode, where we're going to talk about NFL free agency, unrelated to the Bears, just looking at free agency wide, some of the top names in the league, looking at what we consider the top 10 offensive players on the board tonight. And we're going to go through each player piece by piece, and then both recommend a team that we think is the right fit for them. And we'll ultimately put, our predictions down on a big board. Wayne and I have had a bet in the past that ended in a Malort shot. But, whoever wins this one, who gets the crown, we're going to have a consequence for the loser. Perhaps it's a Malort, or perhaps Wayne can maybe throw out an idea as we, stream this, in real time right now. But I guess without further ado, let's just go through the board. We'll go through our top 10 players, starting with number 10, and we're going to put Miles Sanders up on the board. And Wayne, why don't you kick it off?
Thanks, Pat. Yeah, so with Miles Sanders, he's maybe not as exciting as some of the other running backs, that we'll be talking about later, the Saquons, the Josh Jacobs, etc. But he's still a very, solid running back. Had almost 1,300 rushing yards last season, albeit, how much do we want to attribute that to scheme, as well as, having one of the best offensive lines? That's always the fun question, I think, with running backs, right? I have him going to the Lions, actually. I think that's one team that I saw seems like a good fit overall. I don't know if the Lions will be re-signing, is it Jamal Williams? So I know he got a bunch of rushing touchdowns, but I'm wondering if they're looking to see if they can upgrade on there. So I have Miles Sanders going to the Lions. Had some other interesting takes or some other teams that I think he might be interested in. Obviously, one team I was looking at was possibly the Panthers, just because of their lack of running back depth. They could possibly, I don't know, the cool thing to do is obviously draft one, but I definitely see, maybe the Panthers as being another one. But for me, formal pick, I'm going to go with the Lions here. Pat, what do you think? Who do you got?
I don't want to see Miles Sanders in our division, especially if it's replacing one of their two backs. I mean, Swift's been out, year after year, it seems, with injuries, and it's just kind of hampering, his ability to be, consistently productive for the Lions. I feel like Jamal Williams is just such a great cultural fit for the Lions. I watched the Hard Knocks from last year, and I swear to God, this guy was crying in the huddles, trying to rally his team up. Throughout the year, he just kind of took over as an every down back and as a leader of the team when they went on their, really nice run at the end of the year. If I was Detroit, I'd love to at least have Jamal back, whether I bring in Miles or not. But in any case, I picked a different team and for somewhat different reasons, but I've got Miles Sanders going to the Atlanta Falcons. They have the second most cap space available right now. And, we saw what Tyler Algier could do last year in his rookie season. I mean, big, strong back. I mean, he's pushing lines back. He's kind of a bruiser. He'll go through the tackles and stuff like that. But, I just think from a team perspective, they're going to have money to spend. But I feel like they also need some sort of leadership. They need somebody who can come in, be a veteran, show an organization how, true winning gets, established. I think he brought a lot of that last year to Philly. He's beloved by the fan base. I think he's one of those kind of maybe cultural guys, glue guys that could be, really a great leader for Tyler, first and foremost. But again, like you were saying, he was top 5 in rushing last year, just in pure yardage. I mean, he's still a productive player, and it seems like Atlanta is just trying to establish some sort of identity. I mean, still looking at the quarterback position, whether it's going to be Desmond Ridder, they released Marcus Mariota. Kyle Pitts needs to have a bounce back year, but like if you could just have like a stabilizer back there, I just feel like Miles Sanders would be kind of a nice fit for them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you brought up cap space, and there could be just definitely a snowball effect of some other running backs going off the board, going to other teams. So, that does seem like a good pick, although it is wrong. So, but yeah, I do like the pick. I like your rationale. I think it makes sense for Miles Sanders specifically. Again, if some of the other running backs on the top of the board go to other teams or re-sign, then it's like, well, what other teams have good cap space that also need a running back? Falcons, probably are a perfect fit in that sense.
Gotcha. For number 9, we have Jimmy Garappolo. Wayne, where's this guy going?
Jimmy G. I've kind of like had a bouncing back and forth, I think, between teams for him. I have him. I can't see him, I guess, anywhere else besides going to the Raiders. Reuniting with Josh McDaniels. It's just one of those sick things I feel like for Raiders fans. It's like, hey, might as well just go for Jimmy G and just kind of like make this full circle thing happen, I guess, with being all Patriots and stuff like that. But the team is very much built to win now, I think, is kind of how I look at it as. And they want, if their team is built for now, then they're not going to be looking at drafting a quarterback. I don't know how much belief they have in Stidham or whatever. So I feel like they're going to go the Jimmy G route, have him team up with Devontae Adams and everything. I feel like that's just the way to go. And then having that familiarity with McDaniels, to me, I think it just makes sense. But yeah, what's your take, Pat?
I think he needs to go to a place that has a large population of porn stars that he can date. So
not Vegas? What?
Well, man, I just completely messed up my prediction, and I actually wasn't thinking about Vegas. Damn, Wayne, you just ruined my prediction. I think Vegas might be one of the best spots for porn stars. But if it's not Cali, I just see this guy being, big time, big city. I got him going to the New York Jets, and I feel like you and I discussed this last season. We were breaking down the Jets, what their needs are right now. They need a guy that they can just plug in there, be a veteran, really help Zach Wilson or even Mike White at this point. I think just having somebody there that can show, younger quarterbacks the ropes would be one thing, but also having enough talent to, push them over the hump, get them into the playoffs, make them a respectable franchise. I think they're going to strike out. We'll get to it later, but I think they'll strike out on some of the bigger names. And ultimately, they'll find a fit there in Jimmy G, and it also doesn't, completely put the rug over the Zach Wilson experiment for them. I feel like personally, I don't have a lot of faith in him, and you probably feel the same way. But it's kind of like, if you're that franchise, do you think inside that brain trust they are readily able to admit, like, hey, we effed up here hard. This guy's not the answer, not a solution. We want to bail on this ASAP.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, if it's up to Jimmy G, between maybe the Raiders and the Jets, if I were him, I would probably pick the Raiders in terms of the team build and everything, built to win now, having familiarity with Josh McDaniels. But if for whatever reason, maybe the Raiders, they're like, hey, we don't want you. And, then the Jets, I think makes sense next for him. I had them as like my, kind of a backup, if you will, for Jimmy G, filling that role almost to the way that he was kind of like there he signed like that 1-year deal, I think, for like with Trey Lance around and everything. And then, that whole thing kind of happened, getting injured and then Brock Purdy stepping in. So, it makes sense. I think I'm glad. I think it refers to things like, okay, maybe those are like the secondary teams they were kind of thinking of for the respective free agents that we're mentioning. So I think Jimmy G, makes he would make sense for the Jets. Kind of again maybe filling that role that he did with the 49ers. And they do have the cap space for that too. So.
Yeah. I also see, Robert Saleh, leading the Jets as well, the familiarity there in San Fran together. You got a leader on the D side, maybe bringing over Jimmy G. They have that common understanding, amongst each other. I don't know what the relationship is there, but in the same sense, some familiarity has to be good. Somebody who, Saleh feels comfortable putting in, every single week. But no, I think that's pretty fair on both sides for Jimmy G. At number 8, we have JuJu Smith-Schuster. Wayne, what do you got?
JuJu. I mean, he's one of the, he's probably the top receiver, at least in the free agency list. In terms of also if you factor in age as well, he's probably, geared up for a little bit more of a long-term contract. Had that 1-year deal with the Chiefs. I know that I guess there's been internal talks about having him re-sign and everything. But I think he's like, I spent that 1 year at the Chiefs for a reason, got my ring, got my chip. Now let me, get some bags. So that's, I think, where he's going to go. I have him going towards the Giants. I think the Giants, there's definitely a lot of talk that they're going to re-sign Daniel Jones. So it's like, okay, who's he going to throw to? They just released Kenny Galladay and everything, even though he wasn't doing so much. So that's going to free up some space there. But yeah, they really don't have too many, I guess, notable wide receivers. There's some wide receivers here and there, like, James, I know, had a pretty good year with him, but overall, he just needs more wide receivers. And I think bringing in someone like JuJu Smith-Schuster, who's still is like one of the better route runners out there, I think it makes sense for him to join, Dable too with Jones, and also be, in that New York limelight a little bit. So I think for me, JuJu Smith-Schuster to the Giants makes the most sense.
Got it. Yeah, this one was tough for me. I was split between two teams. I thought Tennessee on the surface might be a good one just because they, have some cap space. They have a need there, after losing A.J. Brown the year before. Just a place that could, spend a little bit of money. And I know they've gone pretty crazy with cuts to start off the offseason with some pretty memorable, type of names for them, at least in their system, guys like Taylor Lewan and, others. But I'm going to stick with KC here reluctantly. I mean, I feel like I'm agreeing with your points. Like, if there was a time for him to cash in, it would probably be right now. I mean, he only signed a 1-year deal with them, which was pretty disappointing, I think, for a guy like him. I think in general, he's probably a trusted wide receiver too at this point. But, 78 receptions, 900 plus yards, a Super Bowl victory. Why would you want to stay? I just feel like for me, he's always played with, winning teams. He probably enjoys that winning culture. To be Mahomes' like most trusted wide receiver going forward, even if it's just for, a 3-year deal, 4-year deal, whatever it could be. I think just riding out that experience and being, on that journey with Patrick Mahomes is something that's really attractive, I would think, for any wide receiver. It might even up his value in the long term too, just in general. I think he's 26 years old, if I have that right. So, if he can bank a couple, more seasons of just high productivity under Patrick Mahomes, maybe he can, go back out into free agency a little bit later on in his career and get that final deal. But yeah, I thought about this one pretty hard because I do see the money argument. But I just feel like winning will win out in this situation.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it is really hard. I think it's definitely fun for Chiefs fans / GMs out there, just like trying to figure out this whole, like, how we're going to manage all this cap and stuff like that. So, with like Orlando Brown as well, kind of just up in the air. Are they gonna franchise tag him or not? I think they will. So, that could certainly open things up for, maybe some other contracts such as JuJu. So, but yeah, so nothing wrong with that take, but it is still wrong. So, but no, I definitely, yeah, I see him going to the Giants.
Sounds good. How about Tony Pollard at number 7?
Tony, loved him on my fantasy team. I thought he was just gonna get some spell yardage and touchdowns here and there, but he really emerged kind of like as the top running back there for the Dallas Cowboys. It's definitely this whole, I guess, hey, we paid Ezekiel Elliott the money and everything, but Tony, he was the producer. A lot of any Dallas Cowboys fans there, I feel like they were just waiting for Tony Pollard to come in and kind of like take over the game or break out a big play, which he did pretty routinely there. So I have him though saying, hey, you kind of you don't have the bag that I feel like you can help re-sign me, and I'm a running back. I'm not gonna be playing for too long or anything like that. So I have him going to the Falcons actually here. So I knew that's where you had a Miles Sanders, but to me, if I'm the Falcons, I want somebody a little bit more like Tony Pollard. I think with kind of where they play and everything, it's definitely much more of a speedsters type of stadium that they're in. So I feel like having Tony Pollard out there just makes the most sense. I think him out there in Atlanta, that'll be a much more explosive offense. With whoever else they bring in there, so he's going to get a lot more touches, and I feel like that's the best suit for him in terms of money and overall like playing style. I know they were one of the top rushing teams this previous season, and that probably is going to also occur because they don't really have a necessary quarterback, or I don't know if they're really going to rely on Ritter or whomever. So I feel like Tony Pollard, if he wants the opportunity to make kind of a difference on a team as well as earn some money too, I feel like the Falcons are the best fit for him.
Gotcha. I'm gonna put Pollard on the Baltimore Ravens. I feel like they're always a running back away from being a more competitive team, and this whole idea of the the really deep stable. I mean, last year it was Kenyon Drake, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins when he was able to see the field, some Justice Hill. It's like it's always this piecemeal situation in Baltimore, and I think it primarily stemmed from having Lamar Jackson, who will ultimately cover in this. But I just think with a lot of cap available for them as well, I think they have the 8th most cap space available. Pollard's going to ask for about $10 million a year. He's not going to go back to Dallas. I mean, I don't think that's like a foregone conclusion just yet, but if Zeke is making $16 million a year, unless they can find some way to like restructure that entire deal, just doesn't make sense to put $25 million a year into your running back. So I just feel like, Tony can go to an instant winner just in terms of a team that's really well run, well organized. I think with whatever happens with Lamar Jackson, whole situation, they're going to need, some guys that, they can truly trust, and, playmakers who can, be a part of their new future. And I just think Tony fits really well into that system.
Yeah, he definitely does. He would definitely bring out more of that element of, like you're mentioning, like the Drake in terms of a running back that can also catch out of the backfield. So, which I think, I've been hearing talks also like with Justin Fields and everything about, hey, how can Justin Fields like not get hit as much? Well, if he actually does like more checkdowns and things like that, or even design passes to a running back like a Tony Pollard, then hey, that's a valuable asset to have for Lamar Jackson or Justin Fields, right? I think my second team for Tony Pollard was the Bears actually, so I was like, can't have too much for them. So, but no, I think that's a good take. That would be awesome. I think for the Ravens going forth though, if they are able to have Lamar Jackson, they're like, hey, let's bring in Tony Pollard in there. It was just like, I think Dobbins for me, it was just like, oh, I know he was hurt last year and everything, but I feel like they'll like maximize, I think, other positions rather than at least at this point in the running back position, rather than the running back position. So, but no, I think this is a solid take.
At number 6, we have Josh Jacobs. Wayne, where's he going?
I think he stays with the Raiders. I know it's not sexy. I'm thinking that they might franchise him. I'm not too sure if there's any other players that they want to be looking at a franchise. I also think that, like I mentioned, I think they're kind of in a win now type of attitude. So, having, when you're in a win now type of attitude, if you do have a running back who led the league in rushing this previous season, why not keep him as well? Especially if you are going to have a new backmate for him at the quarterback position. So at least for the full season, I just doubt that they're going to, enter into next season with Sidham. So I like Josh Jacobs actually just returning here. He wants to, from everything I've heard, he wants to return as well. It just makes the most sense. I don't know if he has I don't know how Josh McDaniels necessarily feels about that, but he gave him enough touches. I feel like there was definitely that speculation earlier in the season of, is he actually going to give him the ball? Because it always seems like Josh McDaniels likes to rotate the backfield a little bit, but and it took some time actually. I think Josh Jacobs didn't just come off start the season like just killing it. So it definitely took some time, but I think Josh McDaniels has seen that this is like a very valuable person to our franchise going forth, and let's see what we can do to re-sign him, whether it be giving a full contract extension or franchise tagging him, which I think might occur. But yeah, what do you think?
I'm on board with this. I think we just nullified each other in this selection. I mean, I don't see anywhere else that makes the most sense with him, and from a team perspective, because they have a ton of cap flexibility, relatively speaking, and he is their franchise outside of Devontae Adams. I mean, those two on the offensive side, I mean, you can get rid of all the other contracts you have for playmakers on offense if you just have those two. So I think it allows them to have, a lot of flexibility going forward with, how they go about signing those, ancillary pieces to their offense outside of the quarterback position. Because right now, like you're saying, you got Stidham. Depending on who takes over at quarterback, it could be Stidham. You're going to need those playmakers in place to really get the most out of an average to below average quarterback. So yeah, I'll stick with you there, and we have Jacobs going to the Raiders.
Yep, sounds good. Glad we're both right on that. So yeah.
For sure. Number 5, OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. He's missed the entire year last year. Wayne, where do you have him going?
Okay, this one was definitely a fun one. I went back and forth on two teams that I think could make sense for him, but we'll see. The first team that I was kind of contemplating on was the Patriots, actually, because I think Odell, I feel like he would like the whole Belichick type of systems, if you will, and I think he could slide in there a little bit. Granted, maybe Odell doesn't. He actually, maybe I'm talking myself out of that. So, anyways, I thought about the Patriots, but then I'm gonna go with a team that I think can make sense for them. The Bears. I'm just gonna go with the Bears again. Hey, they have the most salary cap space. They need a wide receiver, a veteran. I understand that he is probably at this point in his career, probably like a wide receiver 2, right? So, and he's coming off an ACL injury. I would love to see him go to the Bears, make some money, and then I think he fits kind of in pretty well with the situation with having a young quarterback in Justin Fields, and then also I think he fits well in terms of wide receiver combinations with Chase Claypool and Darnell Mooney, and then we'll probably also draft a wide receiver in the draft as well. So I have him going to the Bears as kind of like I wish that this could happen. See if it does. And I did mention, I think in our last episode about DeAndre Hopkins going to the Bears, but in this case, we don't need to get rid of any draft capital, and we just sign him with money, which we have a lot of. So that's what I think will occur. It will occur. But what do you have?
There's no chance OBJ is going to be a Bear. Like, no, dude, I would hate that. No offense. Like, you set it up well because we have tons of money to spend. We need a wide receiver, but like, I could just totally see the OBJ from the Giants, from the Browns, who's just pouting on the sidelines, yelling at, the younger quarterback and stuff. Like, and he would go to the Bears, like a run heavy team that he's not probably going to get the ball as much as he probably wants to. Like, this would be an absolute disaster for me. Like, I really wish that not to happen. But in any case, I've got this in like somewhat boring fashion. I've got going back to the Giants. I think that Dallas played too many games last year. Like, I thought of maybe like, will he still stay on this whole Dallas venture, like this whole idea of, he was going to basketball games with them, hanging out. He was like almost part of the team at the end of the year, and they just like wouldn't sign him because, I'm sure his health wasn't good enough to get a contract for the, 22-23 season. But I just feel like, Dallas is in a pretty poor position cap space wise. And I think he has this like true desire to just return home. I feel like we're in the twilight years of, OBJ, and, not based on really talent, but like, can this guy stay on the field? Can he stay, healthy after getting, another ACL tear? Like, it's just not trending in the right direction, but I still think, he brings enough value, and he has, now some Super Bowl experience where, this Giants team is seemingly on the rise. They need a couple more pieces. I really liked what Hodgins and there's one other guy that I'm just always forgetting about, but both of these dudes on the Giants kind of like filled in for Shepard. They obviously filled in for Kenny Galladay. It was a complete waste of time. Always slips in my mind, but I just liked how these two younger guys, truly played at the end of the year with Daniel Jones. And if you could just add like a little bit of veteran presence, who's used to New York, used to, kind of playing in those types of situations, more of a playoff type receiver kind of guy. I think Dable would like tolerate zero BS from a guy like Odell. So, and he's expendable at this point. I mean, it's not like you need to cater to every, wish and need of his. So like, if he's not gelling, not fitting into the team, doesn't want to be there, you could either, cut or trade him at some point in the season. But yeah, I'll say that.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good take. I don't think there's anything wrong with it besides it not going to happen. No, I mean, it actually might happen. Not, I think you might have convinced me there. If there's anything about OBJ is that he likes the limelight. So, what better place to go to than, New York for that, right? So I definitely see that. And like I mentioned, I think the wide receiver room for the Giants could use some improvement via draft or free agency. I think that's pretty evident. Give Daniel Jones more weapons. I think it was it Ricky or is it Richie James? I forget exactly. I think it's something James, right?
Thank you, man. Yeah. Richie James.
Yeah, Richie James. So, I think having him added into that wide receiver room, I think makes sense going forth. So, I won't bash that take, but I would just find it really funny if he joins the Bears. So,
I think, man, if that really like, let me ask you, because you're the one who brought it up. But if they did that, would you be jumping out of your seat? Would you be like pumped, excited, like? Anything like that?
I wouldn't be jumping. I think it's like I look at it like I look at it as I might jump out of my seat if I saw the DeAndre Hopkins news a little bit more. If you trade like a third, fourth rounder, right? Because he's just battled, I think, injuries, and he had that one suspension and stuff like that too. So for me, is like he never really dropped off in terms of talent, at least that we've seen. Just hasn't been on the field as much. And the whole situation with the Cardinals was just a lot of I guess. Drama, politics, stuff like happening in the back, and they also got Marquise Brown too. So it's like, all right, who's Kyler Murray just going to be passing to all this time? So I feel like him having a fresh start, that would probably be preferable. But it's like I do like having those draft picks as well. So don't have to go that route with getting OBJ there. Or by getting OBJ, you don't have to necessarily give up a draft pick. So that would be my only, I guess, thought in there. But yeah, if we are able to get maybe the Bears are able to get Kenny Galladay for like just a prove it 1 year deal type of thing, then yeah, that might be actually a better route to go. So
yeah, I mean, I just feel like Odell is the kind of guy now where you plug him into like an already made playoff team with an established quarterback, a lot of veterans, a lot of, talent on the roster and stuff. So he can just kind of blend in a way. I feel like if he's forced to be, a leader, if he's forced to be like more than just like your second, third option on the outside, like then problems start to happen. And it's like, yeah, I mean, with any team with a younger core or quarterback or whatever it is, even a below average veteran quarterback, like I just don't see him like doing that. I mean, I think the Chiefs is something like a Chiefs type team makes sense to me where it's like, okay, like Patrick Mahomes and me, like, let's do this. Or, the Bills, okay, I'll join your stable. Like, I know, I can be Diggs' second guy. Like, but in any case, we'll see what happens. OBJ, what a name. He's still around. Number 4, Saquon Barkley. What do you got, Wayne?
I went back and forth on this too. I was actually contemplating the Bills because I think that would be the most interesting. Like, that would automatically, again, I think similar to the Von Miller news, like last year, right, with the Bills, like put them into that top tier team, which they were, at the start of last season. So, but I'm gonna go with the Bears in this situation too, I think. So not to be all homer about it, but it's like I see them moving on from David Montgomery. I kind of have been talking myself into this a little bit now as time has transpired. But it's like, the Bears could get I've always been kind of on the mode of drafting a running back, right? Since that's just, the cool thing you do. But I'm like, well, I think there's enough cap space to also, sign a pretty decent offensive line and then also sign an explosive running back. The wide receiver group isn't too much right now, that we're seeing to spend a bunch of money on. So, hey, let's see what we can do in terms of free agency. Oh, let's get the best running back out there. Since the Bears have the most cap, so they have the most flexibility to give Saquon, who I believe he was asking maybe for, or he declined. I think was like a $12 million contract. He definitely wants to be top paid in terms of running backs, which isn't too much, I guess, compared to other positions. I think it's like the least now. So if that's the case, I'm like, hey, yeah, let's just go with it. Let's just get the most explosive type of running back out there. I'm sure Getsy will like that. I think he complements pretty decently too with Khalil Herbert. So hey, let's just make a awesome backfield. Have Herbert, Fields, and Barkley in the backfield. I think that can do wonders. And then they have some pretty decent wide receivers, and like I mentioned, maybe trade for DeAndre Hopkins. But I think something like that. As time has been going on, I feel like it just makes a lot of sense now to have Saquon here. So, but who do you have him going to?
I actually first think that's a pretty good take. I mean, I feel like he'd be a good fit roster wise for us. I mean, he is Saquon Barkley, good pass catcher, explosive, young. We have the money to make it happen. I mean, I think that like in the realm of our possibilities, things that we could do to improve our team. I mean, I'd get behind that. That's one of those where I'd probably jump out of my chair a little bit and be like, okay, like we're starting to get a little bit more serious now. Obviously depending on terms too, but yeah, in any case, I just can't see the Giants letting him go. This reminds me a lot of Dallas when, Zeke became available a few years back and it was like, is this in the best interest of our team and the best interest of how we spend our money, going forward? Like, probably not. Like he's a little unpredictable injury wise. I mean, he hasn't had the most healthy career to this point where he's doing it year after year after year. He's been hampered by injuries, to kind of start, his career in the NFL. And then he has this amazing season. They get into the playoffs. They had kind of this shocking turnaround. I think everybody, including myself, was pretty surprised at how good, they turned out to be this year. And I would just think it's kind of puzzling to kind of, not match whatever offers out there when you have, $43 million to spend in cap space. He's your franchise. He's your best playmaker. He loves New York. He's young. There's too many reasons why I just couldn't see them letting him walk in any scenario. And I think that feeling may be mutual as long as the terms are right. So I'll just stick with the Giants here, re-signing Saquon.
Yeah, no, for sure. Are you think that they're probably franchise him or something like that, or do you think they'll sign him to a long-term deal?
Well, I think that's one thing that you and I were talking about because Daniel Jones may be the better tag in the situation, just because what you're getting in Saquon when he's at his best. You can't say the same for Daniel Jones, so it's harder for me to see a scenario where it's like, hey, I want to give Daniel Jones 5 years at whatever the market rate is for, a top 15, top 10 type quarterback, and like probably overpaying the guy like in any situation. So it's almost like, I think you'd most likely want to tag the guy you have less certainty about, maybe less assurance. And no, I think this will go into a pure free agent deal, and possible that he walks. I mean, there's a possibility there. If there's more money, more interest from another team, like, I don't know, the Bears, like that'd be kind of maybe tempting for him to take a look out. But yeah, again, I just think like, marketability wise, where he's from, kind of, that part of the US. I mean, I feel like this is just a good fit. It's been a good fit, just hasn't always played out that way on the field.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he has always said he loves New York and everything, and he's definitely about that lifestyle, I feel like. So, I know that they would be sad to see him go, and vice versa. So, but no, I think it's a respectable take for sure.
At number 3, we have Derek Carr. Wayne, where's Derek Carr going to be playing next year?
Jets, Jets. I have him going to the Jets, man. I think Derek Carr, I think the Jets fit perfectly for him in terms of they have a coach that is respectable, that I feel like they can get behind. They have the talent around him. They have, some cap flexibility and all that too. He kind of goes in there, like, and you mentioned the whole Zach Wilson thing too. He's definitely kind of like in that middle ground, right? Of, okay, he's had a good career so far. We can debate like how great is he, top 10 or top 5 quarterback. That's always kind of been his whole thing. But I feel like he can at least, go there, maybe like sign a short-term type of deal with the Jets, and then see how, this whole thing plays out with Zach Wilson on top of it, right? I feel like if I'm the Jets, that's probably the route I would like to go with. He'll sure have him start day one and everything like that, because I think he's earned it from everything he's contributed versus what Zach Wilson or even Mike White has contributed. So, I say Derek Carr, go to the Jets. They have a roster around him. They have a defense. They have a coach. So I think that's probably the best fit going forth for Derek Carr. Some awesome wide receivers as well. Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, they could pass to him more, and a pretty decent line overall. So I feel like that's the best fit for him. And then, Breece Hall as well will be returning from his injury. Hopefully he'll be healthy too. So I think that's probably the best fit. If I'm Derek Carr, I'd probably pick the Jets.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, for all the reasons, I see Jimmy G going there. Same goes for Derek Carr. I mean, I think they're both, Carr's definitely got more passing prowess than Jimmy G does, has more talent outright. Jimmy's just got more of like that leadership factor. I think, Derek is missing, and kind of, has been for the Raiders for, a lot of seasons now, where they're kind of like, we think you're the guy, but then same sense, like, why aren't you getting this playoffs year in, year out? Why aren't you winning playoff games for us? And, I think with, an upgraded roster, especially on the defensive side, which he was lacking, in Las Vegas, it's like, this is going to be a nice turnkey operation for him to kind of walk in and do his thing. So if it happens then that way, great. But I've actually got him going to New Orleans. They were hot on his tail, while he was still under contract with Las Vegas, a month ago or so now. I think he's got to respect that, got to appreciate a little bit. Like, the trade didn't end up happening. He wanted to make sure that, there were no strings attached to whatever deal he was going to walk into next. And, I think New Orleans is far enough along. If we look at defenses too, they were top 5 in yards allowed and sacks as a defense. Like, that's a really good unit that they've got. They've established a winning culture under Peyton. I think they're trying to do the same thing with Dennis Allen. You still got Alvin Kamara, could just be like somebody you dump it off to. Olave, got to like him a lot. And then you'd have Taysom Hill not playing quarterback and like more or less playing like his kind of wildcat hybrid role. I think it's an attractive place for him to go. I think that's a team, especially a division, that's very winnable. If he goes there, he's got a really good shot at getting them in the playoffs next year. I mean, we don't know what's going on with Carolina, have no idea about Atlanta as well. And then, Tampa Bay is going to be, completely reloading right now. So, Yeah, I mean, I've got Derek going to New Orleans.
Yeah, no, that's a good take, and I was also contemplating on that too, because they definitely have the roster for a win now, with Alvin Kamara and all the talent you mentioned, and also on the defensive side too, so some players there. So, I definitely see Derek Carr, whatever situation he's going to be going into, it's not going to be for a rebuilding team. I think it's for a team that's going to be competing. And just needs a quarterback really to kind of take him over the edge there. So, and I do like your take though. It's like, yeah, the South there. It's a very who's going to take this division? I feel like whoever, unless like Derek Carr does go over to the New Orleans and they just like steamroll through everybody, then it's just going to be a division that whoever the winner is, they're just gonna kind of roll into the playoffs. I feel like kind of like this previous year. So, yeah. I don't see that there's anything wrong with that. But I would just love to see him in New York. Yeah, get these Jets the quarterback that the Jets the quarterback that they've been I think longing for. And I think he also has the demeanor for New York. A little bit more laid back, and I don't think he'll be too frazzled. So, but I don't know. I'm excited for Derek Carr in general, though.
For sure. At number 2, we have Geno Smith. Wayne, what do you think?
Geno, you know what? I don't know. I don't know if there's any other place that I can see him than the Seahawks, right? Like, I thought about the Jets. I actually did think about the Jets because that would be, this whole like almost Shakespearean type of thing. Because he started his career there and everything, and he had to be like the prodigal son, go out there. And then, learn a thing or two, and then he comes back in here. And, for me, I love that kind of story. That's definitely cool. But you know what? He really, I think, just grew up. May not grow up is the right word, but he really just showed all the talent he had. And I think he's in a great system, great situation. He's still got some, wide receivers there. They're, developing more of a team. I think they're going to be a better team this coming season. With some seasoning, they drafted really well and everything. So I don't see if I'm Geno Smith, I'm gonna stick with the Seahawks here. Great team, great environment and everything, great coaching, great organization overall. They were just going through some transitions and stuff like that, but had a good draft this previous draft, and if they can replicate that kind of success in this coming draft, then hey, they're going to be some NFL playoff contenders in the future. So, but yeah, who do you have taking Geno?
Seattle. I agree with you. I mean, for a guy like Geno to be kind of a, backup quarterback for the majority of his career and then step into a starting role with a team that had zero expectations, end up 8th in passing yards, 7th in QBR, 5th in passer rating for the year. It's like, it's an absolute joke. Like, I mean, it defies like pretty much all expectations, and he's going to get a good payday. He's going to get a great payday out of it. But yeah, like you're saying, I mean, he knows the culture of Seattle. It fits for him. I think he takes a lot of pride in, that team and, being a leader in that locker room. So I think that matters a lot for a quarterback. And most times we don't see a lot of the QB movement unless there's like some ill will or, it's just kind of like, the roads have been kind of, divided at a certain point. It's just like, I've got nothing else to prove here. You guys don't really want me. So Seattle absolutely wants him. He's worth the money, I think, at least short term. I'm still a little skeptical on like, can this guy repeat? Like, can this guy be a fixture there for 2-3 years? Like, I don't know about that. I mean, I think he's probably good for at least one more year, if I had to say. And I think, allows Pete Carroll a little flexibility and the GM to kind of go into, this offseason. They want to take like a, shot later on in the draft on a high upside quarterback as a backup. Like, go for it. I don't think Drew Lock will ever be anything in the NFL as a quarterback. So, have Geno there, have him be the bridge. They can get into playoffs. Great. Then you've got, a chance there, and maybe they can add some more talent on the D side or, with more playmakers. But in general, I just think it's a good fit.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a good fit. And, I think Geno, I think he's just very appreciative of, I think, with the Seahawks giving him an opportunity, knows the system. So yeah, and if he were to go to the Jets, though, that would be pretty funny. But the Jets definitely have been kind of an up and down organization. So that might, and when he was with them, it was definitely much more of the down time. So I definitely see him going with the Seahawks here for sure.
All right, and that leads us into number 1. We have Lamar Jackson. Wayne, where's Lamar heading?
This is a fun one. So I guess interesting one, like my interesting take or team that I would love to see, Twitter would go crazy, right, if this were to happen. If the Giants were like, you know what, in the end of the day, like, hey, Daniel Jones, you've been great, right? You can run and all that. But guess what? Lamar's better. So we're going to go with Lamar, right? If that were to happen, that would be insane. That would be nuts. Brian Dable, right? Like, he was definitely the one. He showed his coaching chops, his play calling chops, etc. with Daniel Jones. What do you think he can do with a Lamar Jackson, right? I feel like that would be great. And then, adding some wide receivers, like, we were mentioning, if we were to add Odell Beckham. I know there was a lot of, wishful thinking about Odell going to the Ravens to help out Lamar. Well, how about they just both go to the Giants, right? I feel like that would be a fun type of, Twitter storm that would happen and occur there if that little switcheroo were to occur. Lamar would be, highly paid and everything in a great market. But that all being said, I think way too much drama has happened for him not to resign, right? But I would say drama in kind of a way of, they both have been saying, "Yeah, we're gonna make it work, right? Yeah, we're gonna make it work, right?" But they just haven't signed the deal, right? So I think there's been a lot of posturing, but then both sides have both been trying to play it cool from the PR perspective, which I feel like is a little bit more of an inclination of what exactly both their intentions are. So if both their intentions, it sounds like John Harbaugh said it, like, "Hey, I want to be with Lamar, or I think Lamar is going to be a part of our organization going forth." And then Lamar's been like, "Hey, I love the Ravens, but I just want to get paid and all that." Then I certainly see that there's going to be some sort of middle ground that they're going to find eventually, and this is all going to be settled. But that's boring, so that's why we threw in the Giants in there, because that would be hilarious and fun all at once. So, but yeah, Pat, who do you got Lamar going to?
Yeah, I first think it's a good take, especially on the like how I think both sides are thinking about this right now. Because if I'm Lamar, I'm like, you guys haven't really shown me any respect for anything that I've done here. I mean, I've won an MVP. I've taken you guys to playoffs year in, year out. I defied expectations of probably what you thought I was going to be coming out of the draft. And ever since then, you've been testing me and kind of like prodding me about, you need to show me this or you need to show me that. And I feel like from Lamar's standpoint, like, I'd be prideful in that situation. I'd be like, I'm well worth like this money, a max deal. Like, go across the league and look at other guys who got max deals doing far less than that, I have in my career. And like, why aren't you guys like shelling that out for me, like right off the bat? From Baltimore's perspective, they've won Super Bowls with average quarterbacks. They've won Super Bowls in situations where they're like, we don't really need a quarterback. We're going to, build an awesome, defense, and we're going to have a solid run game and great coaching and special teams. And we're going to be disciplined and hard nosed and stuff. And it's like, if you leave, we'll just put in Tyler Huntley. He was a Pro Bowler this year. If you didn't know that somehow, some way. But I feel like they're just so like disciplined as an organization that like, I think they'll be okay letting Lamar go in a way. And I say that because what I think is going to happen, and it's kind of a little bit of a wild scenario, but I think it makes for some fun too. But I think they're going to tag Lamar Jackson to trade him, ultimately getting some sort of return from a team that's looking for a quarterback. And we've gone through draft scenarios, and like, we know this team needs a quarterback, and like, they may grab one in the draft, but if they want a little bit more certainty, give me the Houston Texans. They have the 5th most money to spend. If you look at this year's draft, they have the number 2, 12, and 33 overall. They have 2 first-round picks next year as well, because they got those trading, their problem quarterback and Deshaun Watson to the Cleveland Browns. I think they liked everything that Deshaun Watson was. I think they just didn't like the situation. They didn't like, obviously, like, I think in some ways his head got a little big in the sense of like, hey, I'm going to be helping to make decisions for this franchise. And I don't think that boded too well for the front office. But like, why not package one or two of those first rounders? Maybe it'll cost a little less if Baltimore just wants to, not have to pay Lamar, but just find a good place for him or whatever have you. So it's kind of like, I just kind of see that as a good fit for both sides. I mean, maybe Baltimore gets some draft capital back for it. Maybe they get a player or two that could fit, right into their roster in the same sense. Like Houston doesn't have to play this gamble game at the number 2 overall pick. Like if somebody snipes that number 1 overall pick from them and it's like, that's the quarterback that we wanted, like we wanted Bryce Young and the Colts jump in there, then it's like, hey, we got Lamar Jackson. Like, what's up? So I think it's kind of crazy. Do I think it's going to happen? Like, I don't know. Like, it's kind of a little far-fetched, but I just thought like scenario building wise, like it seems like a pretty good fit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I why not, right? Like, I feel like if that's, if that were to occur, I that would definitely turn the entire NFL table just like upside down and everything. So, no, I think that could be a fun one. That would definitely make, the a trip to Kansas City for the NFL draft night, right? If it were to occur on NFL draft night, that would drive it crazy, make it a party for sure. So, no, I like that take. And, Houston definitely has done crazy things, right? So in terms of how they're run, with was it O'Brien and all of that, then it's like, hey, look, and obviously we saw with what happened to Deshaun Watson. So they've done crazier things, I feel like, from a personnel standpoint. So, if Lamar wants to get paid, which I definitely think, he deserves, right? Then, hey, why not go to a team like the Texans and kind of build up that franchise more so of, and, kind of get them into, automatically contention into next year, basically, I would think. So, yeah, and then they have all that draft capital, like you mentioned, and yeah, they'll be able to use that draft capital. This almost works in favor of like Lamar, like in terms of being more of a winner than, that I feel like that, at least in my opinion, that definitely sets them up pretty well for success going forth in that situation. So that would definitely be something. And then, like you mentioned, maybe, yeah, it is a little bit more of a rebuild then for the Baltimore Ravens going forth. Then, maybe they are able to get, Richardson or something like that. Or yeah, trade up, if they are going to go, maybe it's a second pick that they get. Maybe they are able to pull that off for Lamar. Then yeah, maybe they are able to get either it was a CJ Stroud or whomever, or Bryce if he goes that far. Then that's the only thing opens things up. So yeah, this is fun. No, this is definitely a fun. That would be definitely a fun draft day maneuver if that were to happen.
Yeah, it's almost like, Baltimore did spend a first rounder on Lamar. But I could also see him like taking a Seahawks route where they're like, well, Huntley can hold the job down for a year or something like that. And like, let's just grab like Hendon Hooker later on in the draft, or let's grab, another guy who may be, a prospect of sorts, like somebody who just really needs some work in that sort of way. But could totally see that scenario too. Like maybe they get a first rounder back, and like you're saying, maybe go after some of those, premium quarterbacks coming out in this first round of the draft. But I guess with that, that's our top 10. We did have a special focus too, because technically the guy is not a free agent. He's well under contract with the Green Bay Packers, but just knowing his name's been in the press so much about changing, scenes and things like that. Aaron Rodgers, I mean, he's gotten out of his darkness treatment. He's enlightened. I don't think he's doing any more ayahuasca, as we know of in this offseason, mushrooms perhaps. But, Wayne, if Aaron can get himself, mentally fit to play football next year, where do you see him playing?
I mean, I think he's going to retire. It's funny. It's like Tom Brady, he just like, yeah, maybe I'll retire. Oh, maybe I'm not going to retire anymore. Right. But Aaron Rodgers, apparently he has to go through this whole spiritual journey, I feel like, before he makes the decision. So it's an interesting process, right? I think he'll retire. That being said, if he doesn't retire, right, I would love to see him, I mean, it definitely just makes sense with the Raiders, I feel like then, if that's the case, right? Just because of, again, they're built for contention. And man, he's going to be, more so in the desert, which I feel like that's where he belongs a little bit more of, having that spiritual journey. What better place than Vegas, right? Like that's a great place for you, for anybody going through some sort of spiritual journey, So I think that could be a fun one for him. Reunite with Davante Adams, have, a coach that has an offensive background, up and down defense here and there, which I guess he might be used to. But with Max Crosby there, I feel like that's they're always going to be somewhat at play for contention if that were to be the case. But yeah, I feel like if I am Aaron Rodgers, if I were to be like, what, I do want to play like a year or two more, right? Let's see if I can manufacture my way, for the Raiders. I do believe, I think we talked about like he's in contract or something like that. So if there were to be some sort of trade, I don't know what the Raiders can necessarily offer. They don't have too much, draft capital to send over there. So that's where that might be my question for them. But yeah, although you did mention the Texans, they do have a lot of draft capital. That could be something. But no, I feel like if I'm Aaron Rodgers and I have my whole persona, this whole spiritual journey, I don't want to be going to Texas. I'd rather be going to Vegas and playing for the Raiders. And I feel like that would be more of his vibe, as the kids say. So, but Pat, what's your take on Pat? What's your take on Aaron Rodgers? And where do you think he's going to be ending up at the end of this whole free agency?
All right. So just for consistency purposes, do you have Jimmy G and Rodgers both ending up in Las Vegas? Because I just want to, I'm going to mark down your final answer because you did say retirement too. So I just want to make sure as part of this grander big board that we have the final answer.
Okay, yeah, because I know we're betting on this, so it has to be factual here. I'll go the retirement route. Route for the record.
Okay.
But yeah, the fun idea though, I think would be the Raiders. But yeah, for the sake of our bet, I have him retiring. So yeah.
Yeah. So it just seems odd, like based on your your answer. We got one guy who just completely wants to hide away, walk away from fatherhood responsibilities. We got another guy who wants to play Batman every offseason. It's like this guy just like wants to stay in his cave, wants to stay in the dark. So I definitely see the retirement angle with Rodgers. Like at this point, like I don't feel like football in the last 2-3 seasons has been the most important thing to him. Like in his life, in his universe, like in his metaverse, or like wherever he is mentally. I just I kind of see a situation, I mean, at least in Green Bay, where it's like you can tell it's just starting to like disintegrate. I think it started like the year prior when he was just talking aloud about his contract negotiations and like what he thinks about the franchise and like their positioning on what they wanted to pay him at the time. And I'm with you, man. I see Las Vegas. I have that open as his destination. I see the Raiders as being the team to be able to pull it off. I mean, Davante's already there. Guy he knows really well. I mean, he'd fit like a glove into that team, like with those weapons, especially if they could get Josh Jacobs back. Salary cap wise, like they do have one of the, the best cap positions of any team out there. So I feel like they would be able to kind of take on a contract of his size. Like, could they attach maybe like a bad asset with Aaron, in an Aaron Rodgers trade? Like, would a Darren Waller plus a lot of draft capital like make that happen a little bit better? Could you? I don't know who else they could maybe toss in from like the defensive side of things, but just in a way, get creative a little bit with contracts and things like that, where you can swap, some bad assets. Because at this point, like, I don't want to call Aaron Rodgers a bad asset. He's definitely not, but he's still not like the same quarterback he was even a couple seasons ago. I feel like you're looking at a guy who's like, back-to-back MVP winner. This year, it felt like felt like more of a game manager. I mean, still got them, a really great second half and things like that. But I think he's going to need a little bit more support offensively to make, the total offense, still elite somewhat. But I think that'd be just the best fit overall, the best thing that he could probably, ask for in this situation. But yeah, getting him out of the NFC North would also just be a huge plus for us. I think just saying goodbye to him forever and watching the Packers kind of go through their own rebuild at this point.
Yeah. It's kind of long overdue. I feel like, this whole offseason drama. I mean, I feel like if I'm the Packers management, I'm almost like, okay, maybe if Aaron Rodgers does want to come back, he all of a sudden says, yeah, I'm going to play more. If I'm the Packers, I think I've reached that point of like, okay, that's nice. We're going to go with, I guess, Jordan Love in this situation, see how he does, maybe sign like a veteran, a backup quarterback of some sort as well, just for insurances or whatever. But yeah, just kind of go that route and just, move on. I feel like is, what I guess my thinking, if I were the Packers with all this, offseason drama, it's like, the Packers aren't a Cowboys team necessarily. They aren't like a team that's always filled with drama, like a Raiders, right? So I feel like, going forward for them, they'd rather just move on and kind of just get a quarterback that is for sure that they want to be there. It doesn't have to go through a spiritual journey to figure out if they need to be there. Just select a quarterback that actually wants to be there. And it is almost kind of symbolic of how this whole thing has transpired with Brett Favre and kind of that situation too, right? Because Aaron Rodgers was kind of in a similar situation where they drafted a first-round quarterback, and that player had to wait for like 3 years right before they stepped onto the field. So it is kind of symbolic that if that were to be his departure, but that that's kind of the Packer way of just having the next man up at quarterback after 17 years or something like that. So yeah, I feel like that's probably what the Packers would do is, I think this was the last season with them. Aaron Rodgers, he had that moment with Randall Cobb right at the end of that playoff game. So I think this is it for Aaron Rodgers, at least as a Packer. But then, if he were to go to another team, it just makes sense, I think, for the Raiders in terms of overall fit. Players around them. Are they a team that's up for winning right now? All that, I feel like it's got to be the Raiders here. So yeah.
And who better to fill Aaron Rodgers' shoes if it's not Jordan Love and a guy like Carson Wentz? I mean, I feel like that would just be perfect. I mean, just those two sides uniting and him being the trilogy to Favre and Rodgers. I mean, how great would that be?
That'd be pretty funny. Not gonna
lie. All jokes aside, Wayne, do you have any good ideas for a wager here in this situation?
We are the Ball and Breakfast podcast. So I was looking up like weird breakfasts actually here. So I did find some, I don't necessarily weird, but it's a little eclectic. But I like the way that this is going. So one I see here is, let me know your thoughts on this, is Fruity Loop pancakes. It can be waffles because I do have a waffle maker. We could certainly go that route. But how do you feel about Fruity Loop pancakes or waffles?
Now, is this for the winner or the loser?
No, this is for the loser. I feel like, I mean, I would be excited to lose almost. So, but at the same time, I feel like, the winner. I mean, yeah. What do you think though?
So how is this going to, essentially, if you lose, you've got to go upstairs and make pancakes that are Fruit Loop based, and then you got to eat them in front of the camera here while we shoot.
Yes,
okay.
yes. That is what I'm talking about with regards to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm down. I mean, I feel like yeah, I feel like this is kind of a reward, but kind of interested in losing here too. So,
well, how about loser or winner picks the cereal on those pancakes of some sort?
Okay,
yeah,
and the cereal will be on top, or they'll be like inside the batter.
I think on top. I want to say I feel like I feel like S tier will be kind of hard. Yeah.
Okay, this could get pretty cruel. I've thoughts in mind, so let's just hope that you win because I think this could get really fun. But
Okay.
I accept the wager here.
Okay, I accept it too. A little handshake there. And just to be clear on the rules too for the the crowd and everything, like it's the total amount, right, of free agents that we got correct, from my understanding, right?
Right. If you guess the team correctly, you get a point. There's 11 players here on our board. If you get the scenario right, you win.
Got it. And if in an event of a tie, again, just try to be clear on all these things. This is a bet and everything. Yeah. So if there's a tie, does that mean both of us have to do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And both people can pick what ingredient is in the pancakes.
Okay.
And it's going to be a cereal, but nothing crazy. You're going to put like shards of glass in these pancakes, but you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. We all have like lives that we want to exist afterwards. So I get it.
For sure. Well, with that, that's our NFL coverage for today. Wayne, do you have any final thoughts?
I mean, guess we're talking about like breakfasts and everything. I was looking at some other things, possibly eat, maybe this weekend, and I got almost sentimental about the prospects of eating some spam, eggs, and rice in particularly. It's highly involved, I guess, in Hawaiian and like Filipino cuisines too for breakfast, or really any time of day, whether it be like a spam musubi type of concoction. Or even going on fried rice and things like that. So curious, Pat, do you like spam? Have you eaten spam? What kind of things do you like spam in or not in?
Yeah, my journeys with spam have been somewhat limited. I feel like if I've got it right, like spam is pretty much like a Hawaiian type staple. It probably translates over to other Pacific Island cuisine, maybe. But in general, I feel like I like them on Hawaiian rolls. They're good with eggs. It has been a while, but I feel like it's just a good like complement to eggs, or in general, like a good substitute for any sort of ham or Canadian bacon or anything like that too. So I definitely see it in a like breakfast capacity, but it has been some years. I can say that I've had some corned beef hash lately that was absolutely terrible. I mean, maybe it's in the same, family, maybe they're cousins in some way, but if it's not that, then I've also heard like scrapple is another one of those things where it's like very, very much like regionally based, and again, good for breakfast and stuff like that. Haven't tried it, but I've heard in some Amish communities, like especially in Pennsylvania or something, like you get scrapple on the side and like it's usually pretty good. But again, kind of like a meat that's been overlooked, or like a meat substitute that just, hasn't quite fit into the mainstream of all menus. But I am interested to hear, like, with spam, like, what do you like to use it with, or like, is it incorporated in your diet pretty consistently, or is it like part of Filipino cuisine in a way?
I wouldn't say consistently. Oh, I in general, like Filipino cuisine is like, it just leads to diabetes. I feel like, just because like, all right, you're just eating a bunch of, really fatty meats, pork, and then also like highly sugared up, desserts too. So it's like the, perfect American diet, I guess you can say, or, so it definitely has a lot of that. So I definitely only eat it maybe, usually when if I have like a relative over from the Philippines or something like that, it's like, hey, you remember this thing? Yeah, sure. So things like that. Or if I'm just feeling really, really healthy and I'm like, okay, that's way too much healthy feeling for me. I need something like kind of fat on myself and a little bit more of, I guess, heartwarming, if you will. So, but yeah, I think that's my view on spam is like, I'll usually eat it, spam, eggs, and rice, that kind of combination. Maybe throw in a couple like scallions or something like that, or green onions, whatever I have around. just add a little bit of green flavor towards it. But yeah, it's definitely a meal that it's like, all right, I just want to be fat right now. So
Well, I'm all for that because my final thought's going to segue right into that. I don't even know how this found me. I mean, it might have been on Instagram, might have just been like perusing online or something, but ended up finding this event that was hosted by the Food Network called the South Beach Wine and Food Festival. It actually took place on February 23rd. And as part of it, there was just a segment called the Burger Bash, and it was 3 hours long for anybody who wanted to attend out in Miami. It was at Capital One Arena, but for 3 hours you spend $325 and you get to taste test 30 of the best burgers from Miami. There was Emeril Lagasse was there, Dave Portnoy was a judge, and like there was other like chefs that presented their burgers from like restaurants around the US. But in the same sense, like also just some like high powered, food celebrities there to kind of like judge the whole experiment. But in general, it got my mouth watering. I was like, man, 30 burgers in one night, like that would just be so much fun. Like, I wonder if I could like tackle through that. So in a lot of ways, I came up with like 2 questions for you, or like just 2 thoughts. I want to get your take. I'll give mine too. But first off, if there was another similar event, whether it was burgers or anything else, like what type of food would you want to try, like from 30 different spots? Like if you were to spend that kind of coin. And in the same sense, in your life, can you think back to a time where you ate just a ton of food and like maybe just explain that event or like the one that like really brings you back?
That's a great question. Man, I would say if I were to like splurge for a similar event, where they take a dish of some sort and were to just kind of blow it out of the water, take all different type of designs from it of how to make it, different cultures. I would probably go barbecue. I'd say like barbecue, like the varieties of barbecue from all around the world, right? If there would be like a global like barbecue summit that was at a respectable price and all that, I would probably shell out coin for that. You're talking about all the different kinds of barbecue just within the US. We definitely hear about Carolina barbecue, a little bit more vinaigrette and everything compared to say like the Texas style barbecue. Even within Texas, there's Central Texas barbecue, and then there's like other parts of Texas, like Western Texas barbecue as well. So it's like all that variation. And then you also have Asia. They have their own barbecue as well. Japanese barbecue, Korean barbecue. So and then all across the world they have some sort of barbecue there, and I just kind of also like the atmosphere of barbecue. So I'd probably say a barbecue event, a global barbecue event would probably be the best deal for me overall. And if I can, complement it with some veggies too, and walking from station to station, that would be great. So yeah.
That's awesome. What exactly about barbecue? Like what kind of food products are your favorite, like within the barbecue realm?
I mean, I love a good brisket. It's hard to beat just like a really straight up good brisket. Even some like also sausages too. I'll definitely good sausage here and there for sure. But for me, it's definitely about brisket. And then yeah, ribs too. I feel like my dad made ribs growing up. I put like a little soy sauce on top of like some rub and some barbecue sauce as well. So like so I think I like the atmosphere about it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're eating barbecue, usually it's like outside with friends or something like that, like a picnic type of environment. That's what I generally like for like a barbecue. So like doing that, friends, family, outside. If there were like a barbecue like food truck festival or something like that, I'd be totally up for that as well. I know Chicago has like their own like barbecue type of festival, which I wasn't able to make it. I think they sell out their tickets pretty quickly, and I think they also complement it too with like a country music festival as well, which I guess that makes sense. So but yeah, I think I just kind of like that overall environment, just relaxing, outside, get some fresh air, and then eat some, awesome fatty foods with barbecue with awesome, flavor all around there. Then I gotta have some, some veggies or maybe some potato salad or some sort as well to kind of complement it. Maybe some cornbread of some sort as well. But I just love a good barbecue.
Sounds good. Was one of your largest eating experiences tied to barbecue or something else?
Largest eating experiences. I wouldn't say largest. I think in terms of largest eating experiences, like I used to work at a buffet, so it's hard to say. It's hard to say like, one thing was like my world's largest, like, the most vast eating experience outside of like a good old fashioned like Chinese buffet that I worked at. But I think Salt Licks, I definitely will say, had my best, like, biggest, like, barbecue experience for sure. I just ate a bunch of stuff at Salt Licks, which is in Austin, Texas, right? Some of the best barbecue I've ever had for sure. Just all the different flavors. I had everything. I had the brisket, ribs, sausages, you name it, I had it all. So that was definitely a quite an experience over there. And like I mentioned, it was like, outdoors, sitting out there. And most of what I love about barbecue is it's pretty affordable for families and all that to, share as well. So got to, eat a bunch of different varieties and share it with other people. So I love a good barbecue for sure, though.
That sounds pretty good. Man, from my end, like, if it was anything fried chicken, especially like a wing situation where it was like 30 of the best wing spots come together and you get to kind of hang out and try all these different wings from all these great, restaurateurs, and you got, Emeril Lagasse or Dave Portnoy in the house, just like, judging as well, or like maybe providing some sort of entertainment. Like, I'd pay $300 for that, man. I like really looked at this event and I was like, I could totally do this. Like, and I would totally spend $300 to just like sit in the house and like, go through that whole experience, see how it was. Cause ultimately, like, how much would you pay for, some game tickets? Like, I don't know, maybe 50, 100, 150 was a good game or something like that. I'm just spitballing, but like, if all food was comp too, and it's from some of the best restaurants, like that all inclusive might be pretty interesting. So in general, I'm just going to keep my tabs, I guess, on the Food Network, see if they put on any more of these like big events. But then in general, like if there's other events that just happen in cities where it's like an all you can eat situation, like take my money.
What if there were to be a festival of like fried chicken wings from your favorite restaurants, like Applebee's, from Hooters? We'll throw in a little bit of Hooters in there. What would happen if they were to all combine forces and be like, what, this Bomb Breakfast podcast that has been mentioning our brand names for the past like year now, let's set up a little festival. Let's set up a little, maybe a tasting for this Pat person here. What would you say to that?
I would say, hey guys, I got a week of sick leave that I'm about to use. So sign me up if you want me to be the face of this thing. But like, seriously, I may not make it out on the other end. But yeah, man, that would totally not be an experience I want, because I think even still, like to this day, or wait a month or something like that, but they may showcase another $15 all you can eat special and stuff. And like, yeah, man, quality is mattering so much more, at this point in my life, where it's like, I've done all the, the cheap deals and things like that. But when it comes to your food, I'm just starting to look at it a lot differently, like how I eat throughout the week. And like, if I do want to binge, I want it to be like a higher quality binge, like either like a really good barbecue spot, like you're saying, like a good soul food spot, place that just like specializes in a certain, type of, meal or, ethnic line of like food items and stuff. Like I'm all for it. But yeah, man, that just sounds terrible, especially if like Applebee's is hosting, or Fridays or something. Like, get out of here, man. Get those corporate entities that are just like cutting costs at every corner here now, like probably laying off all sorts of middle management staff for not hitting, their quarterly marks, So anyways, didn't want to end this final thought on a bitter note, but man, you might have got me there.
What is your favorite? If you were to align like 3 chicken wing restaurants, be like, hey, look, well, let's have like if you were to have a special birthday, right? And you were to pick 3 chicken wing businesses to cater to your birthday, what would those businesses be?
Without even thinking about it, man, like don't even have to hesitate on this one. Buffalo Joe's, Evanston area is my like day one, like suicide, extra sauce, extra jalapenos, a side of waffle fries with chili and cheddar on top, maybe a beer on the side. Like just, man, I've had so many good experiences. I've even split a party pan of 100 wings with somebody before. So like I've gotten deep into that game. So that still sticks with me. The wing quality is like a little dinkier than I would probably go for these days, but man, up there. Second, shout out in Chicago again, crisp Korean style wings. I mean, I really love Korean food. I love, the vibe of like just how it's usually like a soy and like kind of chili blend in the sauce where it's kind of going to give you that heat, but it's also going to have like those Asian flavors come through. Really high quality sides. Like I think that place is still, probably like establishing some pretty good game, especially in the wing space out in Chicago. Very respectable. And I used to like just crave going there and grabbing wings. But finally, locally now, and I've never been to Buffalo, New York, and that's on my list of just like, not for like a full vacation or something like that, but just, I want to go there one time and just like watch a game, maybe like have somebody put me through a table, like out in the Mafia area. And then after that, just like hit up some of their classic wing spots. But I might have mentioned this on this show, but they have a place out in Northern Virginia that's owned by a guy from Buffalo, a family from Buffalo, I should say, but Jimmy's Old Town Tavern. But they have like the biggest, fattest wings that just come with like a really thick buffalo sauce that just like I can't say I've had it anywhere else. Like I think they just have like a unique, sauce that they put together, but it's just such a like a good wing. It's like a game day type wing, but it's just a little fatter than what you may get at your typical, pizza place or family place where they kind of short you on the wing. Maybe the sauce is good, but like it's just, it's definitely up there as well.
Yeah, all those sound really good. Yeah, I've definitely been to the ones in Chicago for sure, but that one sounds amazing. Just the origin of it and everything.
And it's also kind of crazy too, because it's like you get in there and you just feel like you're in Buffalo, New York. Like the walls are just littered with Bills posters and memorabilia and stuff, and like they always put on Bills games. So like I've heard on Sundays it's just packed out of the house and like tons of Bills fans in that area. But no, I mean, just in general, like would love to at some point go to Buffalo. Maybe it's packaged with like a Toronto or something like that. But would definitely like to get some like traditional Buffalo style wings.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, hey, if the Bears are ever playing up there, hop on board. Let's do a little trip here now,
We could get something going, man. We could bring ball and breakfast to Buffalo. Maybe both of us go through a table or 2 separate tables and really like, make good bonds there with the Bills fans. But man, wings, barbecue, cereal infested pancakes, NFL free agency. We will see where this all goes. We will have a resolution here at some point, probably in April. It may be in May if it spills over past the draft. But we'll keep this one on the big board and get back to you. But Wayne, did you have any more closing thoughts here?
I mean, I think that's all. Yeah, I'm just really salivating right now. So I think it's best we stop talking. Otherwise, I'm just I'm gonna create puddles here. So.
Well, it sounds pretty good. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Please subscribe if you're on YouTube. Hit that like button. Give us a comment or 2. Get in our DMs. We love it. We'll shoot messages back and forth with you all. If you're on audio as well, leave us a review. Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Really, wherever you're at, we'll be around. Keep tabs on our Instagram too. We're spinning out stories and reels every day. And with that, I'm Patrick alongside Wayne. for the Ball and Breakfast podcast.